most great founders have a very clear spike. They are not great at everything, but they're really great at something, and then they leverage that. So that's number one. Number two is they have a ton of drive. And drive is very different, I think, from passion. I think passion is important. It's great with passionate people, but we all know a lot of passionate people who never get anything done. So passion in itself is not enough. Drive is more, yes, you're passionate, but you also have that combined with raw ambition and the ability to execute. So can you see that people have moved things forward in the past, achieved different things, hit milestones, and are they really ambitious about solving an important problem and doing something really big? So that's number two. Number three is grit. Right? Great founders never give up. Right? They just keep on hammering.
Absolutely. We're not looking to use AI to replace lawyers. I mean, lots of fun and games in the press about that, right? New technology like this comes out and our knee-jerk reaction is to go full force and just, replace all lawyers. No, it's not going to work. But there's a whole bunch of high volume, low value, repetitive work that lawyers do every single day of the week.
We had a really deep conversation one day and say, well, what do we do if one day, let's say social media dropped off the face of the earth? Like, how do we remain a real legacy business and continue to have the impact that we have? And I mentioned it before, it's one of the things that still to this day, it doesn't matter what time or when we read them, when we see the impact that our work has had for a person, I get the same butterflies in the stomach and the same feeling of like, this is the reason why, this is our purpose, and I feel as though a lot of my purpose to be able to do this.
And, the COVID hit. And
yes.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. Like one day when there's a digital human who could be very lifelike, very intelligent conversations, and they could be agentic. The digital human interface that we're building could enable a lot of automations in just one screen, right?
Welcome to the AI Edge podcast, where we talk with founders and leaders from across Asia's startup landscape who are pioneering the next wave of success. We're here in Sydney, Australia. My name is Tony Speldy. I'm the CTO for the Microsoft Asia Digital Natives team, and I'm very looking forward to the conversation with Michael Weeding. He's the Global Director of Product for Dubber. Michael, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Look forward to our conversation.
Same here. Why don't we start with the origin story? I love a good origin story. Give us the background on how Dubber came to be.
Well, I'll sort of give you a little bit of a story how I came into Dubber, which sort of provides some of that. Dubber's a company that was founded in 2011, and it was the first to provide cloud-based call recording. So the founders of the business at that time saw that as an opportunity, long before sort of cloud was really sort of adopted in the way it was, and they used that as the foundation in relation to the business. I've had a long background in digital, coming from the mid-90s, sort of building my own business and having that acquired, going into financial services, both at Citi and AMP. Then I found myself in telecommunications and had a stint at Optus, and that's where I came across Dubber. And I suppose what attracted me to Dubber at that particular point in time was two things. At that point in time, they were wanting to scale their business and leverage AI before it was really sort of mainstream as it is today. So that was one of the visions that, and that to me was exciting because I could see that as a real emerging opportunity. And the other thing is, coming from telco, I could sort of really see their businesses themselves have got a big appetite for innovation, but their ability to obviously to drive fast and scale, doesn't probably meet that appetite. And I could see Dubber fitting very well into those to help telecommunication services, as this emerging technology came to pace, in fitting itself very well into helping them scale into that. So I saw that as a really exciting opportunity, as Dubber themselves were wanting to scale their business, and that opportunity to me looked very attractive to come in and help them on that journey.
It's amazing, and you've come at a great time. I mean, Dubber has a long history of working with AI for doing things like call transcription, but these days what you're doing is next level. and
Yeah.
patented technology, identifying key moments of a conversation.
I mean, look, Dubber, as a had for many years transcription, and then providing AI on that. And at that time, particularly before it is what it is today, it was very much query-based analysis. So, taking the transcript and finding the information within it, and that was the right solution at the time. But the opportunity, to really accelerate and scale that. Now, Dubber acquired a company that was an AI company, an Australian company, Notive, and obviously acquired expertise like Dr. Ian McCowan, who was the key engineer of that business. And what we did is we set about then saying, well, how now do we emerge or go to the next level? Adopting AI. I think for me, one of the things that I saw fairly early, the opportunity for AI is exciting, and we all like to talk about, everything that it can do, right? And I used to say, it's a little bit like, what are we selling, or what are we positioning? Are we selling the solution to world hunger, world peace, or just analysing conversations? Because you can get excited and talk about everything it could do. And even then, Dub had a catchphrase like "end not knowing," as if we could find everything and solve every problem. And, what we set about doing is going, well, I think what we need to be able to do is, and obviously history I've had in working through internet and digital, is how do you find the ability to build a solution that connects to value fast? And I think that's going to be the real test. Forget talking about the technology. Technologies at work isn't just about the technology. We like to talk about it. It's, have I got a solution that connects you to value really, really fast and simply? So we embarked on that journey, and what did that look like? And Dubber Moments, which is, what we like to call our trained model, it really came from a couple of things. If you walk into a business today and say, I can analyse all the conversations that are going across your business, an organisation can pretty quickly identify where they'd see value. So while we like to say, if I can analyse all your conversations or do something like that, I want to show you what everyone's talking about, well, that's okay. But value is created by saying the thing you want to get out of it, we can identify accurately, present that information and provide value out of it. So Dubber Moments for us was the train models that's trained to find that into the conversation, but then also has the depth of value of connecting the information around that gives you an accurate and reliable result that you can use confidently to make business decisions without you having to do anything. So we've spent the last couple of years, 2 to 3 years, engineering that outcome. And look, it's been probably a little bit, we probably thought we'd be scaling it faster, all right? But what we found, particularly as we've gone through these last few years, is we had to find the right level of value and then obviously connect that at the right level of cost. And that's been our journey for the last few years.
Congratulations to you, though, because it is a very crowded space, and you have definitely set yourselves apart. I'd love to hear some examples maybe of customers who, once they've turned on Moments and ingested all of the data across their company, what are some of the aha moments that have come out of that? I'm sure there's some good ones.
You're right, there's a crowded space, and that sits in the productivity. And we saw that fairly early and said, well, productivity has its place and we'll provide some solution around it, but let's not get caught in the crowd. Moments was about business insights, business intelligence aggregated, helping sales managers, helping chief customer officers and other things quickly identify the information that's happening across all their conversations, and bringing that to life. So we made a deliberate decision, to pivot into business intelligence, versus just trying to compete in productivity, in relation to that. There's some of the stories, because as we've gone down the line and worked with, early adopters of the products and other things and built those, I think the first thing is the businesses that see the results initially can be surprised, because the results they see isn't what they expect, because they're used to working with a data set which is much smaller, right? Not so well structured, and they form their heuristics or their assumptions based on that information. And what we can do is show them something that's quite different. My team, this shouldn't be a product they're selling. Well, it's not. It's a product your customers are talking to them about.
Yeah.
You know, we've worked with a number of retail organisations, and they're used to, a technology of secret shopper where they ring a couple of stores a couple of times a year and use that in relation to that. You know, so you go from 2 or 3 data points a year to now a couple of hundred in a day. And once again, they see information that initially they've got to adjust because they may not have been expecting the results that they're seeing.
The data that you feed into these models, you mentioned Notive. What are some of the other sources that you guys bring into the mix?
So what we do is our primary analysis is voice, right? And I love what our AI team says, voice is your most unstructured conversation, and it's the most untapped piece of value in a business because it is unstructured. So obviously voice is about taking that structure in it so it can be an important data set that's used. So it is untapped. Businesses today have never been able, we can take all the structured data that exists that comes off databases or other ways, but the voice, so that's one. We also can connect into our chats, which are a bit more perpetual conversations, and SMSs that then also, so our focus is around those form of communication. We're connected into, all the major, collaboration solutions. We also connect natively into some mobile networks, to capture off, mobile calls and others. And they're all the source of data that we use to then be able to sort of analyse on top of it. So at the foundation, Dubber's call recording technology, is the foundation of us being able to get the data. Being cloud-based, we can get that quickly and easily without, any professional service implementation. And then now what we've built with our conversation intelligence, technology, is the ability to move, just run that without any effort or setup configuration that anyone needs to. It just performs.
As anyone who has tried to do this knows, there's a lot of work in the plumbing. So there's amazing value that you guys bring to the table there. You mentioned the collaboration tools. I know you were one of the first third-party call recording integrations for Teams.
Yeah.
And the amount of compliance and regulatory approvals and performance testing and security hardening that went into that, it's a very high bar to pass.
It is.
So first of all, congratulations. That sets you up well for even regulated industries.
I think we can underestimate when you say call recording, well, I can just hit record, right? You can, but that's not compliant level call recording, and the work that we've done to maintain a certification with Microsoft, and rightly so, the bar just got changed. We've just recertified, and our teams, led by our engineering teams. A lot more work has to be done to maintain those levels of certifications, right? And that's important because I think we can underestimate the effort to have quality technology that's recording conversations, right? Because we think it's just a simple technology that's available just by what could be made available generally today in a Teams product or other things like that. But yes, then that sets you up well in relation to the compliance space, which means you can then work with businesses, small businesses, right up to the largest enterprises and governments.
And while the compliance bar for Teams is high, I understand it's there's a large amount of volume coming through. I think 320 million monthly active users on the Teams meeting side, 20 million monthly active on the calls side. And the way that you deploy into the Teams world is as a marketplace app, right?
Correct.
So it's a few clicks for an administrator.
Yep.
Is that as far as go to market or customer acquisition, is that a high performing channel for you guys?
It's a high performing and growing channel, and it's one we want to tap into a lot more. And look, we form relationships with communication service providers, and now they're adopting selling Teams too, so whilst obviously there's the marketplace and through all the resellers, and we do want to tap into that even further. And now you're seeing all the big telecommunication service providers around the world, adopting and selling Teams and Teams Phone Mobile now, which is another growing opportunity for us. So we see that's a massive opportunity for us to continue to sort of grow the business.
Every Aussie tech company at some point is thinking about overseas expansion. You've seen a lot of growth in the UK. How did that flywheel start for you?
Well, I mean, it started originally when the business, looking to scale, obviously Australia's, a defined market. James Slaney, one of the founders, spent time over there and built relationships. Obviously, Dub has also acquired another business out of the UK, which also, it helped accelerate some of that growth into some of the other telecommunication providers in that market. And the same with the US. We've got a large team or good team, sales team in the UK that services the UK and EMEA market, and in the US too. And they're obviously servicing the US market. So for us, the growth opportunities come from those markets because of just the volume and the scale. But obviously too, Australia's a very important market for us. Double is a Melbourne company founded in Melbourne, head office in Melbourne, working closely with the telecommunication providers within Australia, Optus and Telstra. So the business is proud of its Australian heritage, and it's proud of the fact that it's an Australian tech company, and that we work with major telcos within Australia, but also we're excited about the opportunity, in those big markets, which is the US and Latin America, Canada, as well as in the UK and EMEA.
Have you experienced growing pains in supporting those markets? Could you tell us about any of the learnings that might be valuable?
Well, I think the growing pains obviously is regulation, around, how you provide those services. It's not just about storing data. We know GDPR in the UK has very specific requirements around data, how it's stored, how it's accessed, but not only that, it's how it's supported, right? Because you need to support it. If you're needing to provide support where, you're accessing some of the information, right, you have to be within those regions, right? So there are other things that sort of might not be as obvious. So how we provide, 24/7 support and support markets across that is one element of is growing pain. Every country's got different regulatory requirements, and we need to understand that, obviously, is one part, but also teams sell differently in different markets, so how do we adapt to that? Mm-hmm. One of the things we're monitoring or working very closely with is responsible AI, and we know that is, while it's not mandated at a particular level, we're watching very closely and looking at all the regulations that are going to form into those markets in how AI needs to be managed responsibly, and we're taking a forward lead in relation to that. So we're very proud of us, focusing on delivering what is defined as responsible AI. Right? We know that people are going to make decisions on this data. They don't want to find out 6 months later that was incorrect. They don't want to. They need to trust its reliability and quality. That also means they need to know when AI has produced that result, but they need to also be able to trace it back down to the source. And the other thing, in relation to, as we mentioned, our patent technology, we need to be able to control the output, so that we know why it's giving the result. So if someone says, why has this happened, or why have I got this result? While we can trace it back, and they can trace it back to the source in the user experience, our engineering team, if needed be, can be able to validate why those outputs were produced. So we know, and we expect responsible AI in many markets to become more of a mandate than actually something you'd just expect, but we're on the front foot of that and already working forward and making sure that we deliver everything that we can justify and stand by responsibly.
It's a fascinating topic, and it's something that definitely sets Dubber apart, given how dynamic and still emerging this space is. How are you guiding your product teams to build in responsible AI, given no one's telling you what good looks like here?
And it's a good question, and even too, once the business knows what we're trying to achieve here, it's not just about guiding the product team. They have a good understanding of what that means. People in the business will keep you honest yourself, right? I've had conversations with our engineers, right, who will say, are we comfortable with that being responsible? They'll challenge you because they are seeing it from an engineering perspective and saying, well, how will we make sure that we're confident that this is, going to meet what our definition of what responsible AI is, right? So they'll even challenge you in a good conversation to say, okay, are we thinking through all the things we need to? But to get there, you need to clearly say, as an organisation, we are taking responsible AI seriously, because I've had conversations. I know Ian would say to me at some points in time, when you look at this, if someone was to look at this data and make a decision to dismiss an employee based on this data, would we be happy that? Because we don't know how people are going to use the data, right? I could see, let's say, for instance, I see, here's all the performance of my sales teams, for instance, right? And I don't see one performing the way that I expect. Now, we can't control how someone's going to react or use that data. We can make sure they can follow it down to the source to validate what they think it is, but we can't control that. So that's the point where we say, if someone was to see this and make a decision that could affect someone's life, right? Are we comfortable that the results that we're producing are going to ensure, if that's happened, that we can go to sleep at night? And Ian will ask me those questions in the engineering team quite a lot as we go through and think through how we do that. So I actually find it quite empowering that it's not just a product team driving it. You've got engineering teams and others in the business who are challenging you on it. And I think that's the thing I really, if anything, talk to businesses who are running hard at adopting AI into their business. Is I can sort of feel that in a couple of years' time we're going to be sitting here seeing some of the disasters of people adopting without solutions that didn't have that level of quality, decisions being made, and the regret around those decisions being made. And I can do just that. So people who are adopting these solutions, my request is make sure that it is from a company that's standing by the reputable outputs of these results, and ask them how they're doing that, and ask for their responsible AI principles, right? Because really, if you're going to use this information, be confident that the information that you're using you can trust. That's one of the things that I think is really important.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's really good advice. And since the dawn of these non-deterministic models and what's essentially controlled chaos under the hood, have you made any process changes to the way that Dover does product development or engineering in-house?
Yeah, I mean, we've made a lot. Obviously, the key things in relation to, the data that we train from, right, is really important, right? We build good relationships with those early adopters, all those adopters who want to work collaboratively with us, right? To help us deliver a better outcome for them, but also too, that helps us make sure that we know that what we're doing is working in the way that we expect it to do. And then obviously it's the teams that need to sit behind it or quality assuring it. And there's not a day that doesn't go by where quality and the assurance or reviewing how the technology is working. And that creates very different functions within the product role. It's not just always just about writing requirements or looking at market. It's also working with the engineering teams to understand the outputs and how those outputs are being generated, and really sort of work down into that level, so that the process around quality assurance isn't just about a test case and making sure it functions. It's about every day working backwards into the solutions and checking that we're confident that it's doing what it needs to be done.
And so you see your role as kind of shifting left that healthy debate.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, and I always go, I know a lot of people say, it's taking jobs, right? And I go, yeah, it's creating a whole lot too, right? There's all these functions that need to exist to make sure it's going to work, right? As well in the way that it needs to do. So I know we can always say, look, these jobs aren't going to exist in the future, but there's going to be a lot of jobs over here that are going to exist. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're at an exciting time with the launch of Moments, and you're seeing traction in the markets. You've got a really sterling body of work that you've done over the course of your career that's made you attuned to signals, product market fit and traction. And can you tell us a bit about how you measure that, and what are some of the signals that you look for when prioritizing what things to invest engineering effort into, and how you know that it's working?
I always reflect back in the mid-90s when we all ran at websites, right? And I had a business I started at that time, right? And every business needed a website, right? And businesses were investing extraordinary amounts of money because you just need to get onto that train. And I existed through that, so it's probably showing my age, I might not look it, but I do. What I learnt from that particular point in time is everyone runs at something expecting an output without knowing what value I'm trying to get, but I just have to be there, right? A business I started back at that time was then helping businesses understand how to get value from that investment, right? So when I moved into banking, right, we went into, because I always laugh, I say we go from internet then into the world of digital, but then digital banking, right? We started to move through into that space, and then mobile came in, and once again everyone ran at it, right? There are apps for everything, and then once again it became, what we have to do is go, everyone's going to run at this not knowing what value to expect, but I have to be there. And I always saw that what it needs to be is the ones that are successful at the ends are the ones that get to identify value quickly, not get caught up in the technology hype. That's great. That's always going to happen. But there's going to be a settling point where it goes from throwing all this money at this, great, did it deliver me value? Maybe, maybe not. Those that are actually investing the money or providing solutions, the ones that are ahead are the ones that got quickly into say, it's not just about the tech, it's the value. And I think AI, we're into that world again. Everyone running at it. And it's great, right? I think it's one of those real defining moments in our life and in technology. But for me, it's always been about time to value. Can I get you to something that you look at this and say this is value? Right? And that's the thing I think I learned from, being involved in the internet time before the whole .com, getting into banking and then into app, generation, now into the AI. We're all going to run at the technology because we don't want to be left behind. We may not know as businesses what value we need from it, but we don't want to be left behind. The ones that are going to emerge are the ones that say, great, let's not always talk about the tech. How do I get you to value very quickly? So time to value. I ask people who've been using our product, how long was it? And I've always done this. How long was it when you started using this? Did you see value? That response defines, are we on the right track? And the questions when I've been asking that to business who have adopted Dubber and Moments at the AI, you turn it on, it starts to produce it. Resoundingly, those questions I've asked is within the first week. Right? Because all of a sudden they've seen value. Now, what I also find, and when we continue to have those conversations, value emerges, and it doesn't have to be from us investing in the product. It's all of a sudden they see something different the next day, right? They learn now. Oh, okay. Well, I was looking here, I saw value. Value then emerges. So we see value. The value line, of emerging value growing, just by them becoming more familiar with the product themselves. So time to value, to me, is the number one thing that I think is going to set technology apart.
It's a great metric. And what advice would you give to earlier stage product teams then who maybe don't have the customer base to be able to mine that insight from? Are there any leading indicators that you found useful?
Yeah, look, I think I'm just trying to think through what would be some of the leading indicators. The key thing is to have an area that you really want to focus on from a business, that you don't try and create value too broadly, right? Have a position and then validate that, right, with the people you're working with, right? You don't have to, someone to adopt technology doesn't need to have exponential value presented to them in 1 minute. They just have to have something that's going to change them today. So the question that I would always ask someone right now is, if I could give you this, what would be the one thing that would make you buy this? Right? Just give me the one thing. Don't give me the 20 things, right? Because we can get lost looking for those 20 things. If I could show you this, what would be the one thing that would mean you would go and you'd implement this or invest in this? And I think that's the question, and then just focus on that.
You guys are exceptional at driving value from these conversations, unstructured data.
Yeah.
Looking forward, how do you see human communication through these channels evolving now that we've got the capabilities that we have? We've come through COVID, and we all went through where particularly collaboration solutions became more mainstream, and we've changed, right? We work from home more if you have that opportunity, and that changes how we communicate, and but some of the interesting things that we've even seen from some of our data is time on mobile phones has increased, right? So it's not like we're talking less, right, or communicating less. We're still communicating more. I think what will change, or what this will do, is be able to sort of bring this untapped source of information together, not from a point of view of surveillance type activity, but just for improvement. I know we all talk about quality management. You ring somewhere and they'll say this call's going to be recorded for quality and training, and in most cases it is in some way, but not. How effective is that in helping people become better? How do we help the business become better at serving their customers? How do we help our teams become better at sales? One of the things we've built is the ability to detect abuse in conversations, right? That's employee well-being, right? And that came off a need of, a business that was having an issue, right, through a retail organisation. And so, what that did is, this organisation was like, we don't know that our employees are being subjected to abuse until someone tells us, right? Now we know, so we can put corrective actions in place straight away.
right? It's been able to provide better ways in which we can, analyse what's going on in these conversations to be better at employee wellbeing, to be better at how we help our teams, our people become better at what they do. And I think that's the exciting part, because when we say, conversations are your most valuable but untapped resource, it's happening every day. We're all talking, and it's all information that's moving off, vaporising out of our mouth.
Yeah.
How do we find that way to then now bring that together and create value? And that's what I think is going to be exciting. And I think, the future, I'm excited about the future and what that could mean in many ways.
You mentioned the time to value metric. By enabling these moments out of the box to be able to be detected, it's a great example of providing that to your customers, time to value, that they don't have to go query data. Now it's something that can be a signal that can be generated from the get-go. Can you share the roadmap for kind of the current moments that are being detected and where you see that going?
The out of the box was important because it provides the ability to, provide services at small businesses all the way up. You sort of just say, even if I just make the data available through an API, they've got there's a path to value, right? I've got to take that and turn that into value. So we wanted to make sure that it was out of the box and the value, and we spent the time just finding that market fit in the depth of our product, right? What's the level of information we need to give that gives value around these moments, these trained models? And that we've got to that particular level. We've got them around sales, around customer service, around employee engagement, and we've got another different themes what we want to now scale horizontally. I have a vision of a moments marketplace where a business comes in and says, well, here's all the information. I just want to start to tap into here and assign this, and Brilliant. It becomes much more flexible and has all the information that they think that they might want to need. But one of the other things I find really exciting is, and we call it our conversation cloud. We've done the hard work to bring that information into structured data. That information then becomes even more exponentially value outside of our platform. And we talk about, the Copilot. Right now, what we can do is plug in our content into Copilot, then creates exponential more value on top of that. So I not only see that we're going to scale our moments horizontally, I see that we've got a good depth of experience, depth in that out of the box experience that sets us up well, I think, for the SMB mid-market. For the enterprise, that creates value, but they'll want to put it into other areas. They're investing in other technologies, right? So, or they can then leverage the work and the effort and the technology of Dubber and then apply it into Copilot and accelerate them into other ways and create value beyond, what Dubber provides, but into them that's going to meet their needs. So I think that's another really exciting opportunity because, when you get that data structured and you plug it into these other tools, there's a million other places you can take the value.
Yeah, my mind's racing with potential areas. That's really, really a compelling vision. Would love to know if there's another product in the market right now that you really admire.
I admire products like Copilot and, the other tools that are now making this information much more accessible to be able to use it in those particular ways. Like I love the fact that all this feels really easy to use, right? And then, but we all know that under the covers, like to use them well and effectively, right, is about, the proper engineering and architecture to get the right information in to use it in that particular well, right? So I know I've always been excited, and looking at how a product like Copilot that is working today. So that's one product that I've always been really excited about. That's why I'm really excited about us working closely to leverage that and maximize that value, because I just sort of feel, it's just the merging of different worlds into those that then creates the opportunity that I don't think even many people have sort of worked out how much value we're going to be able to get from the ecosystem of bringing the right information together and leveraging tools like Copilot.
The feeling's mutual, and we're looking forward to working with you on that. So thank you very much for being here today. The call to action for folks in the wild who would be interested in benefiting from what you've described today is Dubber.net. There's great video showing the power of moments. And from what you described, the engineering culture within Dubber is admirable as well. And so folks looking for opportunity to work with you would be a great way to start that voyage. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's correct. So, we can be contacted through Dubber.net, and obviously, you might be your telecommunication service provider might already be offering Dubber through some of those sort of solutions themselves. So either way, if you contact us, we'll be able to help create, put you or connect how you can get some value from Dubber. We've been working closely with not only our partners but customers. So Dubber.net is the first place to go. So and we're more than happy to sort of anyone wants to reach out, have a conversation. We can then start to help, talk to them about the value we think that can be taken through what we call conversation intelligence.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time today.
Been great. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the AI Edge podcast by Microsoft. If this episode sparked any ideas or things that you'd like to know more about, please like, follow, share, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you.